Hi friends, so this is the second video in the series of neurocutaneous syndromes. We've already talked about NF1 and 2 and today we'll be discussing a very important neurocutaneous syndrome which is tuberous sclerosis or TSC. So TSC is also called Bonville's disease, which is a one-liner that you need to know. It is the second most common neurocutaneous syndromes after NF1. The prevalence is 1 in 6,000 people. As you can recall, NF1 had a prevalence of 1 in 3,000. So this has almost half the prevalence of NF1. Now, a very important fact that TSC has a classical clinical triad which is also called Vora triad, which has a mnemonic called epiloia. So epiloia stands for epilepsy, low IQ or ID, which is intellectual, or which is now called ID, which is intellectual disability or mental retardation, and A for adenoma sebaceum. So this is the classical triad, which is the Vora triad, which is epiloia. However, it is only present in 30% of the population. The inheritance of TSC, like NF1 and NF2, is again autosomal dominant. The genes, which is very important, are TSC1 and TSC2. So TSC1 is present on chromosome 9q and TSC2 is present on chromosome 16p. So you need to remember chromosome 9 and 16 for TSC1 and 2 respectively. Now TSC1 codes for a protein called hamartin and TSC2 codes for tuberin. Now hamartin and tuberin together form this dimer which will negatively inhibit a pathway which is called the mTOR pathway. So mTOR pathway is the one which upregulates protein synthesis, and TSC1 and 2 are tumor suppressor genes which negatively influence the mTOR pathway. So when TSC1 and TSC2 are deleted in tuberous sclerosis, what happens is there is uncontrolled excessive upregulation of mTOR pathway and in turn protein synthesis, which leads to hamartomas and cancers all over the body, as we'll be seeing. So this is the main pathophysiology behind tuberous sclerosis, which is very important for AIIMS exam. We've already talked, it acts on the mTOR pathway, and this pathophysiology is responsible for the drugs that we give for tuberous sclerosis. So the newer drugs, that is sirolimus and everolimus, are nothing but mTOR inhibitors. So this is very important that the newer advances in the treatment of tuberous sclerosis includes these mTOR inhibitors, namely sirolimus and everolimus, which are used in the treatment of SEGA as well as angiomyolipomas, particularly in cases where it is unresectable or too advanced, where surgery cannot be performed. So this is a very important potential question, particularly for AIIMS and NEET exams, that you need to remember. Sirolimus and everolimus, which are mTOR inhibitor drugs used for treatment of tumors in tuberous sclerosis. So now we move on to the most important thing, which is the diagnostic criteria of tuberous sclerosis. There has been an AIIMS question in the year November 2014 from the same that reflects how important it is for you to know what forms the major features and what forms the minor features. Usually just knowing the clinical features in neurocutaneous syndromes is important and sufficient, but for tuberous sclerosis, because a previous question has been asked regarding what includes the major features and what comes in the minor features, this is one syndrome where you need to know what exactly comes in which feature. So let's go through it individually. First of all, major features. So now it has been divided into two: the features which can be identified clinically and the features which are particularly identified on imaging. So what are the clinical features, or firstly the cutaneous features? So first, most important are the ash leaf macules. So these are hypomelanotic, that is hypopigmented macules, that is flat lesions on the skin, and they need to be more than or equal to 3 to be included in a major feature. Now it's important to know here that this is the earliest feature, earliest clinical symptom of tuberous sclerosis which presents in the first decade. So this is one important fact. What are the other cutaneous features? Facial angiofibromas or adenoma sebaceum, which is included in the Vogt triad as we've already discussed. So this is the second clinical manifestation. Third cutaneous lesion is the shagreen patch. Shagreen patch is nothing but brown colored plaque-like growth which is present in tuberous sclerosis. We'll be seeing the images as we move on, but for now you need to know that the three most common cutaneous lesions are ash leaf macules, adenoma sebaceum or facial angiofibromas, which typically present in this butterfly region of the face, shagreen patches, and the fourth cutaneous lesion is ungual or periungual fibromas, which present in the region of the nails. The two eye manifestations, one of which comes in the major features, is retinal hematomas. As we will be seeing as we move on, tuberous sclerosis includes a lot of these hematomatous growths which are more common in the brain but also occur in the retina. Now, what are the lesions which are identified on imaging? So, mainly the three main CNS lesions will come in this. So, what are the three main CNS major features? One is subependymal nodules, one is cortical tubers, and the third is SEGA, which is nothing but subependymal giant cell astrocytoma. Now, there are two thoracic manifestations, cardiac rhabdomyoma, and one is lymphangioliomyomatosis, which is a lung manifestation which includes lung cysts. And one is renal, which is renal AMLs or angiomyolipoma, which has, as you can see in the name, there is lipoma which has a characteristic imaging features and it has macroscopic fatty content and is pathognomic on imaging. Now moving on to the minor features. So the minor features include gingival fibromas, any first degree relative, pitting of the dental enamel, retinal achromic patch, which is the second ophthalmological feature that we've discussed, first being retinal hematoma, which was included in the major criteria. Third is confetti-like skin macules. This is one more cutaneous lesion, but it's present in the minor criteria. What are the other minor criteria which are particularly identified on imaging? First is white matter hematomas or radial migration lines. Hematomatous rectal polyps, again you can see that it's hematomatous. Non-renal hematomas, bony cysts and renal cysts. So just you need to know that these are the minor features. Particularly you need to remember the list of the major features. That way you can solve any question that is asked as a all except question. All of these are major features of tuberous sclerosis except. So if you remember the major feature, easily you will be able to find the odd one out and you might not need to remember the entire list of minor feature. But now we'll go and see what each of these look like on clinical examination as well as imaging. First, again you need to emphasize that the diagnostic criteria includes presence of any two major features or one major feature with two minor features. Now starting with CNS manifestations. So there are a total of 4 CNS manifestations or features that can be seen. If you look at this schematic diagram, you can see that there is this tumorous growth which is located typically at the foramen of Monro. This is nothing but SEGA. SEGA is subependymal giant cell astrocytoma. It is a WHO grade 1 lesion which is very important, and the typical location is foramen of Monro and it can cause obstructive hydrocephalus. These are the things you need to know. Next, the second feature that you can see here are these multiple subependymal nodules. This is the second feature, both of which are major features. Subependymal nodules. Now subependymal nodules are benign lesions, benign hematomatous nodules which occur in the subependymal location. If you look at this gross specimen here, you can see these flesh-like subependymal nodules. These typically calcify. So this is a very important fact to remember, that these calcify with age and they can turn malignant, and if they turn malignant, they'll turn into sega. Third feature is these lesions which are nothing but cortical tubers. This is the third CNS feature which is also included in the major criteria. Now cortical tubers is nothing but again hematomas. And why are they called tubers? Because if you see this gross image, we can see this thickened cortical surface, particularly at these locations, which resemble tubers or potato. So that is why they are called cortical tubers, because they are cortical based and they appear like tubers on gross pathological examination. One more named appearance you need to remember is candle dripping appearance, which is given to the subependymal nodules. Candle dripping appearance or candle dripping calcification, which is the name which is given to these subependymal nodules, which will calcify and appear like candle wax. Now coming to the fourth feature. The fourth feature is radial migration lines. Remember that this is not included in the major features or the major criteria, and it's part of a minor criteria, and this is exactly the question that came in AIIMS November 2014. So these radial migration lines are white matter lesions which extend from these cortical tubers up to the margin of the ventricles. So these are white matter hyperintensities that can be appreciated on MR and are white matter lesions which you need to remember. So radial migration lines is a minor feature, is the important takeaway message here. So these were the four important CNS manifestations. Now let's look at how it appears on imaging. So this here is CT image. How do we know it's a CT image? Look at the bone. So bone here appears white, which is a typical feature that is seen in CT. However, when you look at the MR here, on the other hand, you will appreciate that the bone appears black. So this is the basic difference, how you can easily pick up the difference. So this is the basic difference between CT and MR. That you look at the bone, if it's white, it's CT, if it's black, it's MR. So now focusing on this CT image. Here you can see these white, that is calcified lesions located in the subependymal locations. So these are subependymal nodules which are calcified, and this can be asked as an image based question, particularly in AIIMS exam. On the other hand, if we look at the MRI, here we can see that there are, this arrow points towards these hypo or dark lesions in the subependyma, which are again calcified subependymal nodules. Calcium will appear dark on MRI, is something you need to remember here. Again, what you can see here as pointed by this curved arrow is a cortical based lesion, a cortical based T2 hyperintense. This is a T2 weighted image because water is white on T2 and the ventricles here, or CSF here, which is water, and water is white on T2, as we remember by the World War II rule, is hyper. So this is a T2 weighted image, and you can appreciate this T2 hyperintensity on the cortical surface, which is nothing but the cortical tuber. And you can see that there is hyperintensity, linear hyperintensity, which is extending from the cortex up to the ventricles, which are radial migration lines. So these are the imaging features. Particularly here you need to remember what calcified subependymal nodules look like. Moving on to the cutaneous features. So first cutaneous features which we discussed was the earliest manifestation of tuberous sclerosis is ash leaf macules. So these ash leaf macules appear as white or hypopigmented macules or flat lesions on the skin. One important fact here is that they appear bright on this particular examination, which is called Wood's lamp examination. So an important fact here is that ash leaf macules will be picked up better on Wood's lamp examination than normal clinical examination. So these were the ash leaf macules, which is a major criteria of tuberous sclerosis. Next cutaneous feature is adenoma sebaceum. So adenoma sebaceum is also called facial angiofibromas. and they occur in this typical butterfly distribution around the nose and the lip, and they appear like these tiny angiofibromas, as we know, and this is included in the Vokes triad, which is epiloia. So this is what adenoma sebaceum looks like. This can come as an image based question or a derma spotter, and it's very important to diagnose this. Next is shagreen patch. This is again a major feature like the other two we discussed. Shagreen patch appears like this irregular papillosquamous growth on the skin. So this is shagreen's patch. Next major feature are these periungual fibromas. As you can see, the nails are quite destroyed and dystrophic, and we are seeing this growth, which is nothing but a fibroma in the periungual or around the nail distribution. Minor cutaneous features. So these three that we've discussed, which includes ash leaf macules, adenoma sebaceum and shagreen patches, were all major criteria. And also periungual fibromas, which makes it 4 cutaneous major features. The minor cutaneous features include these. Here is what is called dental pitting, which is a minor feature. These hypertrophic lesions here in the gingiva are the gingival fibromas, and these multiple spotted hyperpigmented lesions in the skin which appear like confetti are confetti skin lesions. So these are the 3 cutaneous features. Moving on to the 2 ophthalmological features, as we discussed, one of it is major and one of it is minor. So what is the major feature? That is nothing but a retinal hamartoma, and the minor feature are this retinal achromic patches. So these are the 2 retinal manifestations which you need to remember, which can be asked as an image based question. So retinal hamartoma and retinal achromic patches are the 2 ophthalmological manifestations of TSC. Moving on to the 2 thoracic manifestations. As I've already told you, both of these are major features. The first is cardiac rhabdomyoma. So cardiac rhabdomyoma is a pediatric tumor. It will typically occur before 1 year of age, and in many cases it is a congenital tumor which can be diagnosed on antenatal scans. This is what it appears like on an ultrasound. So this is an ultrasound image of the heart. Here we can see that there is this bright or a hyperechoic lesion which is located in the ventricle. So one more important fact, that most common location of cardiac rhabdomyoma is ventricular septum, and echocardiography is investigation of choice for cardiac rhabdomyoma. And one more important fact is that they will spontaneously regress by 4 years of age in majority of the population. So it's possible that once you image the patient after he or she is clinically symptomatic, it's quite likely that the rhabdomyoma, even if present, would have regressed. So this is one important fact, that it occurs only in the pediatric population, in fact in infants, and it can resolve by 4 years of age. So this is not a manifestation that you will pick up in adults. Next major thoracic feature is LAM, which is lymphangioliomyomatosis. Lymphangioliomyomatosis or LAM is nothing but these cystic lesions in the lung. So this is one of the diagnosis for, or differential diagnosis for, cystic lung diseases. If other features of TSC are present, it is almost pathognomic that LAM is representing tuberous sclerosis. So this is the 2 thoracic So these are the 2 thoracic manifestations, rhabdomyoma and lymphangioliomyomatosis. Moving on to the renal involvement. First is AML, which is angio, that represents blood vessels, myo, which represents the muscular component, lipoma, which constitutes the fatty component, and this is what gives it the characteristic imaging feature which is described here in the CT. Now again, how do we know this is a CT? We look at the bone. So vertebra here is white, as we have discussed, bone is white in CT. So this is a CT image of the abdomen. We can here appreciate that these are the kidneys, And in the kidney, we are seeing these multiple dark lesions, the signal intensity of which matches that of the subcutaneous fat, if you observe here. So this gives us the clue. Even if you don't know what fat looks like, if you compare the signal intensity of these lesions to the fat which is present in the subcutaneous location, you can possibly think that these are actually fatty lesions. And when multiple fatty lesions are present in the kidney, you must think of angiomyolipomas. And if there are AMLs which are present in both kidneys, you have to rule out tuberous sclerosis in all patients. Again, a similar lesion on ultrasound. So on ultrasound, fat appears bright or hyperechoic, and here in the kidney we are seeing this hyperechoic lesion in the kidney, again representing AML. Now this is a repeat question of AIIMS exam, where an image based appearance of a CT was given showing an angiomyolipoma and diagnosis was expected. So this is again important to know that AML has fat which is similar to the subcutaneous fat, and that is what will clinch you the diagnosis on a CT image. Next, and again AML is a major feature, whereas the other renal manifestation, which is renal cyst, is a minor manifestation. So just to recapitulate, we'll go through the features one more time and just recall in our mind what it looks like either on imaging or clinical examination, and these are all potential image based questions, which makes this a very important topic. So what were the major features? Ash leaf macules. Next was facial angiofibromas or adenoma sebaceum, which we remember is in the butterfly location and a part of the Vaux triad. Shagreen patches, which was these raised brown colored lesions on the skin. Ungual or periungual fibromas, which were these lesions which are fibrous in nature and present around the nails, which were quite dystrophic. And retinal hematomas. The other features, mainly the three CNS features: subependymal nodules, which have the candle wax dripping appearance, cortical tubers, and SEGA, which is a WHO grade 1 tumor called subependymal giant cell astrocytoma. The two thoracic manifestations, cardiac rhabdomyoma, which occurs in children less than 1 year of age, and lymphangioliomyomatosis, which is a cystic lung disease. And the one remaining feature is renal angiomyolipoma, and we know what it looks like on CT. What were the minor features? Gingival fibromas. The other dental or the oral manifestation was pitting of dental enamel. We saw one ophthalmologic feature, which was retinal achromic patch, confetti-like skin macules, and a family history is also included in minor feature. What were the other features? White matter hematomas or radial migration lines, which we saw were radiating from the cortex up to the ventricle surface. Hematomatous rectal polyps, non-renal hematomas, bony cysts, and renal cysts. And again, to re-emphasize, the diagnostic criteria for TSC includes either presence of two major features or one major and two minor features. So that's it for tuberous sclerosis. Next time we'll be discussing VHL and Sturge-Weber syndrome, which are again two important neurocutaneous syndromes.